rest of y'all are feeling about it, but that's been my experience, is that it's like I said, it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's that it uh, is really for me, it's taken some real contemplation to figure out what he's talking about. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it up. We are in a section called the process of healing. Let's see, different. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Coughing in your ears and probably giving you all your bleeds now. Here we go. The process of healing. Who would like to read paragraph 1 of the process of healing?
I'll read it. It's Vishnu.
Oh, great. Thank you, Vishnu.
Gloria had her hand up.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't see her hand up. Go ahead, Vishnu.
Okay. The process of healing. While truth is simple, it must still be taught to those who have already lost their way in endless mazes of complexity. This is the great illusion. In its wake comes the inevitable belief that to be safe, one must control the unknown. This strange belief relies on certain steps which never reach to consciousness. First, it is ushered in by the belief that there are forces to be overcome to be alive at all. And next, it seems as if these forces can be held at bay only by an inflated sense of self that holds in darkness what is truly felt and seeks to raise illusions to the light. Wow. I'm going to read it again because I was just kind of focused on reading it. I think what pops out for me is I think as Dove kind of mentions, this strange belief relies on certain steps which never reach to consciousness. So, yeah, I think we're just making it more complicated than it needs to be.
You want to reread it, the paragraph? You sure can.
Yeah, sure. While truth is simple, it must still be taught to those who have already lost their way in endless mazes of complexity. This is a great illusion. In its wake comes the inevitable belief that, to be safe, one must control the unknown. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. This strange belief relies on certain steps which never reach to consciousness. So this is the part that I want to get some clarity on, actually. This strange belief relies on certain steps which never reach to consciousness. First, it is ushered in by the belief that there are forces to be overcome to be alive at all. And next, it seems as if these forces can be held at bay only by an inflated sense of self that holds in darkness what is truly felt and seeks to raise illusions to the light. Yeah. I don't know. Any comments on that one?
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm trying to digest it actually. I think the where I'm feeling the answer for me is where it says and next it seems as if these forces can be held at bay only by an inflated sense of self that holds in darkness what is truly felt. So maybe if someone wants to expand on that one.
Yeah, and I just was thinking as you were reading it, yeah, it's because we think, I'm just thinking as you're reading of all the fantastical things that I have done in the belief that it was helping me, that there were certain steps that I had to take. You know, you need to do this transcendental meditation. You need to say these prayers. You must do this kind of, this work, that work, all these, and all of those things are, to be honest with you, I think it's all just superstition. Somehow or the other, we think that God's going to reward us for going through some circuitous route toward salvation. And it could be, I mean, look at all the things that we do. We deprive ourselves of stuff, we sacrifice, we give up, um, things that would be joyful because we don't think we deserve love. There's all kinds of stuff that we do to ourselves that we think are our salvation. And I'm not going to go into them because I'm sure other people are going to come up with uh good good points as well. But it's it's the idea that there's some kind of formula that we have to do in order to find ourself. And but man, I know I've done that. This is what I'm thinking. Karen, please go ahead, and then Elizabeth afterwards. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. I love what you shared. And thank you for reading it twice, Vishnu. I could actually read it 2, 3 times. But yeah, that was perfect. Yeah, I agree with everything Lynn said. And just to add to that, I like I think it's sentence 5, where he says, first, it is ushered in by the belief that there are forces to be overcome to be alive at all. And next, it seems as if these forces can be held at bay by an inflated sense of self that holds in darkness what is truly felt and seeks to raise illusions to the light. So for me, what that's saying is, so this belief that there are anything forces outside of me that I have to overcome. And it's not that. And this is what the course is continually teaching us, that and next, it seems that as if these forces can be held at bay by me, this sense of self that me, Karen, can handle this on my own, that I have the power. And that's the illusion. And the truth is that the only thing that I have to overcome is the unforgiving thoughts, the unforgiveness, the guilt, the judgments, the still, self-hatred and things that I'm overcoming in myself that I project out there, that's what needs to be overcome. So that's what I'm getting from this. I think the course keeps saying the same thing, but in different ways. And you're right, Lynn, the way he says it, it's like, wait a minute, what is he saying? Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, and the more I'm thinking about it, I think all of the things that we think are required of us, or think that we're supposed to do, and so I am kind of baffled by that. And next, it seems as if these forces can be held at bay only by an inflated sense of self that holds in darkness what is truly felt. So that we hide from ourselves what we're really thinking. We're hiding from ourselves what we're really experiencing, and it sort of sounds like spiritual bypassing. That we can, if we just keep these certain crystals, or do this certain chanting, or do these certain, and I'm not saying that keeping crystals and doing chanting is spiritual bypassing, but if you believe that that is the thing that is going to bring you up, uh I mean, it's completely useless, because the only thing that can open you up, bring you up, as Joel was just saying, is knowing my connection to my Father, knowing the reality of my connection to my Father. So that's what I'm thinking. And Elizabeth, you had your hand up, and then also Gloria and Vishnu.
I'm going to express this the calmest way I can in a nutshell, and let it seep into your souls, whatever way it will feed you later on. I'm doing my best. Talk about hitting the bottomless rung of the dark night of the soul, where the unconscious guilt in the mind says, you're still a filthy sinner, a betrayer of the Son of God. You've broken the commandments. You're guilty. You should be punished. You'll never be forgiven. And even if you do, you'll still be damned. And my life has been very topsy-turvy in this transition of moving from where I was to now. I don't want to say it got worse, but if it could have, it was happening yesterday. Everything is breaking down. Cars, equipment, never mind financial things. And the way you would think normally things should happen, even from last night getting a AAA, and the way I got home after driving my car, which has been needing a little service since I don't even know where I'm still going. I can get down to the little Publix and back. My sister's still helping me get just oriented. There's not been one easy way to make anything easy. Changing bills, services, finding out about the rules even here in this condo association, even in the president of the board of directors, to the manager in the office, to homeowners, to renters. Everybody has a different take on something in every direction. I could give somebody my email address, watch them try to type it in, and then I won't get a message. We can't find out why. Could take days in asking 5 different supposedly know-it-alls. Nope. One of my sisters said, they left one letter off. One letter off of an email made, I can't even tell you, mayhem. And it happened again today, to the point that for a little while when I was in some real stretch about 5 years ago, it was like another drama being thrown at me out of nowhere. And for the first time in I can't even tell you how long, I was put on a thyroid medication. And before I left Orlando, I knew I felt it was real reduced, and because I had landed in a hospital unexpectedly for 2 months, and I said, I'm not messing around. Even all the classwork I'm doing, and the take it if you need it and don't if you don't. And it wasn't until this has become just moment by moment. I'm sitting here just staring, even at the class, because the news I just got now from one of my sisters, thank God she's real tech savvy. I said, good, because nobody was figuring it out. Not the office, not with this. She said she used to do a lot of work with IBM, and thank God. And she goes, she's going to get this information sent, because she couldn't even go, oh. And I'm amazed at where this seeming help is coming to me. I feel like just where I don't even know where the car is, some Honda place somewhere, and they're giving me repairs that are I'm getting calls from I don't know who's calling me about what, and nobody. It is amazing. Never mind balance. I just went to an urgent care center the other day with my sister. Said, let's get your blood panel checked. Put me back on the thyroid, very low dose medication, and check it in a month. So I'm just staring. I have papers everywhere trying to sort out one thing or another. And this morning, my sister and I went, that's why I said, where did we have an assignment today? One of my sisters is going out of town tomorrow, and for about an hour. And there was a moment where I thought I couldn't even get access. Right now, I'm looking to start another module with John Monday's series that's going on. And I just couldn't find the Zoom link. And my one sister who she's getting ready to fly to California early in the morning, had time. We needed to take something in about an hour this afternoon. So I spent that whole time, just trying to figure some things out that were coming out of nowhere instead of even accessing the class. I couldn't even get into the class today. It's like, where'd it go? Everything's like, I'll be on the email. All of a sudden, something will press a button. Oh, the tablet I'm using for the class now is just about ready to go. So I'm getting used to a whole new system. But I can't use it yet because it's not all, my sister's programming it and trying to teach me how to use it. It's new technology. So I'm just sitting here going, I'm really talk about when he said, brought to, and I was reading some of the highlights of John's, what's in this module. And in this time that I was just sitting there going, nothing's working again. My body started to give me strange symptoms. Taste buds are going. I can't eat some of the foods, even fruit. Can all of a sudden later on have my lips burning. I'm like, well, what is, that's why I said the thyroid is maybe going to help. And no matter how much, work I'm doing. And I know some other, let's say, we're in a deep transformation of the soul night, are saying there's some very, not dark energies are coming up to really be released and let old distortions, the patterns be revealed, to be able to tune them over, but it still is in process, but we are getting there. So really take note of where and what's going on in your life, because it could just come out of nowhere. And it's been happening to me more than I'm surprised that it doesn't, even to where
All right. Well, thank you for that, Elizabeth. I know
I just want to leave one quick word, because this is to leave this, is usurpation a crime? If you go into a Google and just put up, what does that mean? And start to follow the trail of all the meanings it has, where it's a crime, taking what's rightfully somebody, we took the will of God and usurped the throne of creation, took it to ourselves. The deep punishment still in the mind of, the sin of that is being revealed, in ways that our soul's journey might have had to deep down bring up in order for the core, think about the core that's still attached to that. So be real, I'm just saying, watch, and if you just start with even that, like usurping the throne of God, which was one of the passages I was guided to in the course. And as I wrote down all it said, because then you can see what it's telling you think you're really dealing with, and then just follow your guidance. So the crime of that punishment of usurpation is a real key code. So take your journey with, and that's what I keep feeling like, trust. Divine grace is bringing you to the right place. And I keep going, really? And we're having a drought here in Florida. The lake is like practically, a puddle, and there's no sign of rain. We're having 100-degree, just outside. It's amazing. So I'm going, okay, here we are. So thank you, and Godspeed, everybody.
Elizabeth. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Yep. So yeah, just allow it to be. Let things be as they are. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, is it right if I reread the paragraph?
Yes, please.
Okay. Because certain things were coming to me, and I think it'd be easier if I
I
just
like the way you reread anyway.
go
So
through it. Okay, thanks. Okay, so he tells us here, while truth is simple, it must still be taught to those who have already lost their way in endless mazes of complexity. This is the great illusion, because he's telling us we can wake up now. We do not need to go through endless mazes of complexity. In its wake comes the inevitable belief that to be safe, one must control the unknown. The ego feels it needs to control the misperception and the illusion to keep itself safe. This strange belief relies on certain steps which never reach to consciousness. And he tells us here, first, it is ushered in by the belief that there are forces to be overcome to be alive at all. So he's pointing to self-preservation from the fear of annihilation. And next, it seems as if these forces can be held at bay only by an inflated sense of self, inflated ego associated with and identified with guilt and fear. Inflated sense of self that holds in darkness, that hides, keeps hidden what is truly felt, which is the fear of death and annihilation. So it's inflated sense of self that holds in darkness, hides what's truly felt, which is its fear of non-existence, of death and annihilation, and seeks to raise illusions to the light. So it really does want to, but it's hiding in darkness, which means behind the ego, what it's truly felt is its fear of death, annihilation. And it does all these crazy things in order to seemingly protect itself. And ultimately, all it needs to do is just raise the illusions to the light so the light can shine them away. Thanks.
Thank you, Gloria. And yeah, wow, that is much better as well. Uh, I'm understanding that a lot clearer. I know Vishnu had his hand up a bit ago. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, yeah, I think Lauren, thanks so much. That was a really good clarification because I think it took me some time to digest what this paragraph. And yeah, Lynn, you're right. It's almost like what came to me after reading it and then listening to everybody else. What came to me was that section of the course where it says something about God's son on his father's throne. So I just looked it up, and the line is from chapter 5. How is the perceived purpose of sickness? And it goes, sickness is a method conceived in madness for placing God's son on his father's throne. So that helps. That kind of, I feel like, encompasses that part of it. And I like what Lauren was saying about just the ego hiding in darkness. That's what's really, still sin, guilt, and fear, and bringing those to the light. So I feel like I got better clarification, and thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Vishnu. Brooklyn had her hand up, and so does Sharon. So if you still wanted to go, Brooklyn, and Sharon next. You are muted.
Namaste, mighty companions. So great to be here. What came to my mind is, hiding in a cave so you can be safe, but, like there's an avalanche and, you're hiding in, but you're keeping the light out. I'm sorry, that's what came to me, the picture that came to me. I wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Brooklyn. Yeah, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's true, absolutely. Sharon, please go ahead.
I really feel like Jesus made this course complicated, because we have complicated minds, but to exhaust the seeker. Because when you really read this and take it in, you come to the reality that you need do nothing. Like he's explaining what happens in the process and all these ins and outs. But in the end, you can do everything, but you're always in the state of grace. You're always as God created you. So the healing is, I'm always up for being wrong. This is only my interpretation, but I really feel like all these twists and turns are there to exhaust us because, if you look at this, you have to sit in contemplation. We're all going to have a different interpretation. But in the end, I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like you need to do nothing because it's saying basically that all our beliefs are covering up the light. That's how I see it anyway. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sharon. Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean it's all these and the thing that I love that he talks about this strange belief. It relies on certain steps which never reach to consciousness. That's the whole thing of the ego is seek and do not find. So, we make up all these rules. And I mean, look at organized religion is full of rules. Unorganized religion is full of rules. My superstitious mind is full of rules. You step on a crack, you break your mother's back. I mean, you may not believe that's true, but because you've said it so many times, I still don't step on cracks. That's not because of my mother, believe me, but just because that's a thing that came into my mind that gave me a belief of salvation that I would be safe if I do or don't do these things. And I mean, the world is filled with ideas about you're going to be safe if you, take, proviso. You're going to be safe if you, use sunscreen. You're going to be safe if you, I mean, my whole idea of how fragile I am, and that, that I have to control the unknown because I am so fragile. Wear a mask so you don't get COVID, take it, get all these things. There's nothing wrong with any of them, but they're all false beliefs that I think my safety is relying on. It's all these superstitious beliefs. And, that's why he says stuff like, do you think you believe that if you, take a pill, it'll make you well? You believe that if you, do these things and they're all strange beliefs that have nothing to do with reality. But
Reality's right here. I just want to say reality is here. Like it's like no, and the other thing is like Jesus tells us we're insane through the course, and he's saying basically the truth. From the beginning, nothing ever happened, but we forget that. Now, if nothing ever happened, what are we then? That's what we kept asking, at least for this mind. And because we're insane and don't want the answer, because we are so used to being in not getting it right here. I mean, for me, my experiences here is what happened now, what's wrong, or what did I do wrong? That's basically the setup for the ego. So I think that it's interesting when you go on the path long enough, you realize nothing really happened. We are dreaming a dream in our mind that seems real, and it's a mirage. It's just like, in fact, the human mind can't understand it. So basically, it's I need do nothing. I'm sorry for interrupting. I am sorry.
That's okay, honey. I love it though. Rafi has his hand up, and so does Karen. So go ahead, Rafi.
The sentence that kind of jumped out at me is the held at bay only by an inflated sense. Well, that's ego saying, I can fix this dream. I can figure out a way to fix this dream. Of course, it can't possibly know what the infinite is. It can't possibly know what the truth is because it's a false assumption of separation. And and all it's doing is repeating information that it has because it's a self-referencing machine. It's a recording and playback instrument. That's all it does. And it gets it inflated. So I know how to do this. I can fix this. I can fix that. There's nothing to fix. It's like what she just said. It's a mirage. Try to grab a mirage, something out of a mirage. Good luck. But that inflated says, I can do that. One of the great things to do is get into inquiry and start seeking the source of the I. And all of that stuff just gets real quiet. And once you get real quiet, then you realize the truth of what we are has always been, is now, will always be. And all of the rest of the stuff is just, I don't know, gobbledygook.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Rafi. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Karen, please go ahead.
Such great sharing. Thank you so much. And I just really want to just reiterate what Sharon said, because that's it. That is it. And this course keeps telling us how the truth is simple. And there's a place where I always love to go to in the dynamics of the ego, where he talks about the ego, the dynamics of the ego, and that the dynamics implies that the power to do something. The dynamic implies the power to do something, and the whole separation fallacy lies in the belief that the ego has the power to do anything, and the ego is fearful to you because you believe this. Yet the truth is very simple. All power is of God. What is not of him has no power to do anything. So when we look at the ego, then we are not considering dynamics, but delusions. So exactly what Sharon said. We need do nothing because the truth is simple. It's already over. It's already done. There's nothing broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. Truth is true and nothing else is true. But we believe we need to do all this stuff. And it's usually stuff that we need to overcome that's outside of us, these forces that seem to be outside of us, and it's all in our mind. It's the war within myself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, Karen. Yeah, I mean, this is coming so clear now. I know, honestly, when I first read this, when Vishnu first read this and second read this, and I was like, what the heck does he, but really, honestly, it's so clear now. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you everyone for what you're sharing. It's perfect. And just, what's coming to me just very simply, we need do nothing because we are everything. The only thing to do is change our mind about who we are. And that's accepting the atonement for ourselves, which is what Jesus tells us the only thing we need to do. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. Does anybody else have anything on this paragraph that they'd like to share? Let's go on and see what paragraph 2 says. It's probably going to explain everything and like, oh, well, you just did your whole time. Okay, who wants to read paragraph 2?
I'll take it.
Thank you, Rafi.
Let us remember that the ones who come to us for help are bitterly afraid. What they believe will help can only harm. What they believe will harm alone can help. That's interesting. Progress becomes impossible until the patient is persuaded to reverse his twisted way of looking at the world, his twisted way of looking at himself. The truth is simple, yet it must be taught to those who think it will endanger them. It must be taught to those who will attack because they feel endangered, and to those who need the lesson of defenselessness above all else to show them what is strength. Wow, I had a perfect example of that today. I was going to my garden, and all of a sudden there were these fears that I was going to be disapproved of. Well, with the release technique, you bring up the wanting approval and let it go. And then I realized the mind can't tell the difference between the fear of disapproval and disapproving. So somewhere in that same ego duality, there was disapproval. And I started to look around. I started to let go of the wanting approval. Then I started to let go of this, and I found like 6 or 7 different things that it had come up with that it didn't like. And it was disapproving of this and disapproving that, and making a lot of noise going on. And when I got rid of all of that energy, all of a sudden everything was calm, and I was at peace, and I was centered again. So, and that's what this thing jumped out at me that I just read reminded me of.
Thank you, Rafi, and what a great example too. And it's funny, I had a similar type thing happen, and it wasn't exactly that, but your point that you were expecting disapproval, and maybe I'm wrong, this may not be what you were expecting disapproval because you were disapproving. That's what happens. We expect judgment because we're judging. We expect that hey, Jack Roddy's here. We expect we expect to be rejected because we're rejecting. And so and the ego tells us the only way for you to be safe is for you to reject. And so we think that rejecting is going to help us, but really all it does is hurt us. And so until we can figure out that we're looking at ourselves as being the potential victim in all situations and recognize that nothing can happen, nothing can harm us. So the truth is simple, yet it must be taught to those who think it will endanger them. It must be taught to those who will attack because they feel endangered, and to those who need the lesson of defenselessness above all to show them what is strength. So that's it. If I think that I'm in danger, and so I have to complain about the way, the lawn is, or I have to complain about, the whatever it is that seems to be less than perfect, because that protects me. And Jack Roddy, please take the mic and say hello, my friend.
Hey, hi, Lynn. Hi, everybody. Hey, Lynn, make sure you put me back on the list. I think you took me off your email list.
Oh, okay.
Okay, in my defenselessness, my invulnerability lies. I think, this particular section talks so much about teaching and taught, because the undoing of the ego thought system is that the ego thought system is so strong that we as humans think that that is our reality. I see people that think defending themselves is strength. There's so many people in my world that, oh, if I defend myself, that's really, my strength, my power. When really defending self is the opposite because it plays right into the ego thought system. And the undoing of that thought system is what he's talking about here in teaching, because it's reteaching and undoing what we've been taught by the illusion world, to come back to the reality of what is our truth. So that's why they use the word teach and taught so much, because everybody thinks the ego thought system is the real thing. That's all I have.
Thank you for that, Jack. And I'm if your email is jack@jproddy.com.
Yes.
Yeah, you're on my email list. So
Okay.
maybe they're going to spam.
I'll
So,
check. I'll check and see.
well, no, I feel attacked now because
Not only attack directly, but also with an audience too. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
I'll check my spam.
Okay, no, I'm just laughing because yes, my gosh. Well, here it is. I'm thinking, oh, that Jack, he doesn't love us anymore, so he doesn't come back. And
I
you're
just haven't seen I haven't seen your links coming through lately. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, go look for your spam and because you do get them, but or I send them out anyway. But that's what I was saying. I'm thinking, Jack doesn't love me anymore because he doesn't come in. You're probably thinking Lynn doesn't love me anymore because she doesn't send me emails. And here we are making up excuses to have to lose communication. It's cracking me up. Anyway, Karen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jack. I just love what you shared. And I'm pretty sure it says it in the lesson that says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. He says that defenselessness is strength and defensiveness is weakness. So I love that reminder that in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And in my defenselessness, I'm trusting the Holy Spirit. And in my defenselessness, I'm not relying on my own strength. And in sentence 3, progress becomes impossible until the patient is persuaded to reverse his twisted way of looking at the world, his twisted way of looking at himself. The truth is simple, yet it must be taught to those who think it will endanger them. It must be taught to those who will attack because they feel endangered, and to those who need the lesson of defenselessness above all else to show them what strength is. So just for me, it's remembering that there is nothing to defend. And, this twisted way of looking at the world, that this world is where the problem is, that this world is where the fear is, that this world is, it's not the world. It's the thoughts about the world. It's my mind. It's the twisted way of looking at the world and looking at myself, that the power is within me. And this is what I keep being reminded of, that it must be taught that we have the power, that we are, we can't depend on anything outside of us. And that's when the progress really happens for me, is when I recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And yeah, I mean, this to have a clear notion of this, to know this just in your general life is so helpful, because you really can walk through the world in a very confident and clear way. And that is why Jesus tells us that when you're thinking like this, you present a very different picture to the world, because you are a different kind of person. And that is so clear, and I think on all of us here. I see it in everyone in this group. Glorian, please go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Karen, and thanks, Lynn. I'm going to just jump here on what you guys have been saying. And where he tells us here, let us remember that the ones who come to us for help are bitterly afraid. They're an ego. What they believe will help can only harm. So they're thinking that they can trade an illusion for illusion and that's going to help them, but it just keeps them associated with the ego and the fear. What they believe will harm alone can help accepting of their true identity, which we fear because we believe we're what we made with the ego. Progress becomes impossible until the patient is persuaded to reverse his twisted way of looking at the world and his twisted way of looking at himself. The error and the upside down thinking needs to be reversed. The truth is simple, yet it must be taught to those who think it will endanger them. So we're afraid of the truth. It must be taught to those who will attack because they feel endangered, and attack and defense go hand in hand. And to those who need the lesson of defenselessness above all else, to show them what is strength. And we're only defenseless once we accept our identity in truth, once we accept ourselves as the Christ, as Karen was saying, once we're aligned with the Holy Spirit, the higher self, then we can be defenseless. But if we're in any way associated with the ego, we're in that attack defense mode. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Glorian. And that's it. And I love that remembering honestly that everybody around you is fighting our battle. Everybody is terrified. You look around the world and you see that people are terrified. So, my job is not to add to the terror. My job is to bring the peace. And I think that, that's what we're doing here. Sharon, please go ahead.
I think she's muted.
No, she's not muted.
Maybe she's talking on the
No,
bottom.
I was on my phone. I got confused because I'm on the computer and my
Oh,
phone.
okay.
So, what I was going to say is that the ego pretty much is scared to death. And because we think we're the ego, we become scared of, and so we scared to death. So we have all this guilt, but those fears bubble up, and I see it in my own mind. The idea that you get distracted, you'll watch a TV show. Ego will say, "Well, watch that show," and you can't stay in a book all day anyway, and it doesn't really matter because the truth is here. But the bottom line is to stay in the present moment. I don't know about you guys, but I can stay, but it's distraction after distraction. I watch my mind. So I'm in the stillness, and then, very quickly the ego sneaks up. So it's kind of like a game it plays with itself. And what we have to realize is we're already perfect, we're already home, and we can just watch this shared mind that's insane and kind of just laugh at it because you can't fix an ego. It can get healthier. That's about it. But what does that mean? It still has all the sin, guilt, and fear in it. So I think it's just important to realize that, what he's saying here is true. Like, we are scared to death on some very deep level, or else we'd all be, we wouldn't even be in our body, right? So that's all.
Yeah, but and I'm saying yeah, but I don't usually say yeah, but.
That's okay.
We are scared, but we're scaring ourselves.
I know. It's so funny because that's what I sometimes laugh at. I mean, there's nobody there. It's just me and all my projections, right?
Yeah.
So what the heck am I? But you see, I'll tell you what that is. We have a perverse. As a child, I loved scary shows. Even when I was a little girl, I would watch like Twilight Zone, after anything that I could scare myself with. So I honestly think that there's an addiction to fear, but it's very subtle and it's there.
There's absolutely an addiction to fear. Jesus calls it, I think, the attraction of death. The attraction of and that and honestly, it's we are literally attracted to all the things that
Yes, yeah,
that are
right,
symbols of our sickness, our weakness, and our smallness. And
right.
and the only reason that we can actually do that is because we know that that's not really true, and so we can pretend that we're in that state. Because you're right, if we were actually not pretending that this world is as terrible as it seemed to be, then we would be killing ourselves like immediately. There'd be nothing. But we know that it's a joke.
Well,
We
I think
know that we're pretending.
everyone, I think on some level, well, of course, it's one consciousness, so everybody really knows. But there's an addiction to it. Like, God forbid we should let this person go. And I think that's just the nature of the evolution of just the unfoldment. We have to just be patient. And it's nice to be in a warm-hearted group because you can laugh together because it's really ridiculous. We are going like this to ourselves. Boo, all day long.
Yep, boo, boo, boo is right. Mickey,
I just want to laugh the rest of my life.
yeah, and we can just laugh because we know it's not true.
Right.
That's the thing. Mickey, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I agree with Sharon and you too, Lynn, on saying that we're addicted to fear. And especially it seems like in my own childhood that I really enjoyed scary movies where I wanted to get that rise, that feeling of that fear. It's almost like being on a roller coaster ride and kind of like when it starts to go down and then it starts going really fast, it's like the same type of fear that I would get at a movie theater watching these scary movies. Now, I really don't want to watch anything scary. I'm not attracted to it. It's not what I want. But that was really interesting, Sharon, that you brought that up. Thank you.
And it is, it's the ego, again, the attraction to death. And that's when once I understood what Jesus was talking about when he was talking about the attraction to death, I was realizing, yes, I'm attracted to sin, I'm attracted to guilt, I'm attracted to all these. If I weren't attracted to guilt, I would not have even looked at my TV and said, guilty, 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 or whatever. I want to see guilt. The whole ego thing is want to see guilt because that gives us an excuse for not remembering the truth about ourselves. It keeps us in that dark hole. Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can't read all the chat because for some reason my computer won't let me. I missed some of it, but Dove was writing stuff about the meaningless world and stop giving meaning to the meaningless. And this is what this beginning lessons really teach us. And what it's reminding me of here when he's saying, progress becomes impossible until the patient is persuaded to reverse his twisted way of looking at the world, his twisted way of looking at himself. This lesson 11, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. He's saying that this is the first idea we have had that is related to a major phase of correction of the correction process, the reversal of the thinking of the world. It seems as if the world determines what you perceive. Today's idea introduces the concept that your thoughts determine the world you see. Be glad indeed to practice the idea in its initial form, for in this idea is your release made sure. The key to forgiveness lies in it. So I keep going back to the fact that my twisted way of looking at the world is that the world is the problem, that my body is the problem, that the problem is outside of my mind, and I will never heal. The process of healing, I will never, ever heal until I look within and ask the Holy Spirit, as we always continually say so simply, you know, there's got to be another way. Help me to see this differently. And that's just what keeps coming to me. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's it. The answer is just simple. And I go back always to that last unanswered question, where Jesus asked us, do you want to have everything you want and live in a world where everything is wonderful and peace is your whole experience? Do you want to have all these things? Well, then the last question that you have to answer is, do you want to see what you denied because it was the truth? And of course, he's asking, do you want to see the truth of who you are? And because that's the only way that we are ever going to have to have a life in a world where we have everything, we are everything, and we know everything, and there's nothing to be afraid of or worry about or anything, is to remember the truth of who we are. So, that's it. Just ask yourself that question: do I want the truth? Because if that's all I want, then I'm not going to accept any of this other crap. I'm not going to accept any other crap. Um, let's see. I'm just going to read this. Elizabeth says, there's an old movie called The Time of Their Lives with Abbott and Costello, and it has such a deeper meaning every time I think about it. And its theme, end result, having to prove one's innocence, not a betrayer, to be released to enter the gate of heaven. Very insightful, especially now in a renewed context. I'll have to look that up, The Time of Their Lives. I love that kind of stuff. I love those old movies. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, yeah, we have time. Let's go on to paragraph 3 here. Who would like to read paragraph 3?
I'll read it.
Great, thank you, Jack.
If this world were ideal, there could perhaps be ideal therapy, and yet it would be useless in an ideal state. We speak of ideal teaching in a world in which the perfect teacher could not long remain. The perfect psychotherapist is but a glimmer of a thought not yet conceived. But still we speak of what can yet be done in helping the insane with the bounds of the attainable. While there are sick, they can and must be helped. No more than that is asked of psychotherapy. No less than all he has to give is worthy of the therapist. For God himself holds out his brother as his savior from the world.
Any thoughts about this? I'm guessing, I mean, he's really talking about that the only purpose for us actually being here is to heal the world. Um, so, he says, if it was an ideal world, then we'd have an ideal therapy. But if we had an ideal therapy, that would mean that there is no therapy is necessary because we're all healed and whole. So, in that case, the to be a perfect psychotherapist, he says, is but a glimmer of a thought not yet conceived. And I have to experience or admit that myself, that I don't know what it would look like. Maybe that's something I hadn't really even thought about. But I don't know what it would look like to truly have a healed mind. I know, and I always think, how would a healed mind see this? How does a healed mind think about this? And talk myself into thinking the way a healed mind would be thinking. But to be thinking all the time like a healed mind, without any question or any thought about anything other than, everything is perfect and beautiful at this moment, at this time, that would be a different way of seeing things. So, how he says we speak of what can be done in helping the insane within the bounds of the attainable. And of course, while they are sick, they can and must be helped. No more of that is asked, no more than that is asked. But no less than all he has to give is worthy of the therapist. No less than all he has to give. And that's where I'm talking, the conflict I'm seeing is that I am not consistent, constant, honest in my mind, because I think in such conflicting ways. So if I really wanted to heal myself and heal the world, then I would give it everything, my all of everything, and not allow any other thought to come into my mind. And when I saw my brother in that perfect way, which he is expression of the Christ and nothing else, then that becomes my salvation and the world, and salvation of the world from that. Wow. Rafi, please go ahead, and then Karen after that.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm getting is that it's saying we're going to cure the dream.
I can't hear you, Rafi.
It says, it kind of says to me that it wants to cure the dream. Excuse me, the dream is perfect the way it is, and it isn't even real, and it's here to teach. Okay, so when Jesus said, I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world," you just look at the dream and see what it's doing. If it has a message for you, use the message to quiet the mind, to clean out the garbage, so that you can realize the truth of what we are. But if you're trying to cure the world, good luck. You're trying to fix a dream. It's perfect and it doesn't exist. Excuse me, if that isn't an exercise in ego futility, I never heard one before.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rafi. Karen, please go ahead.
Exactly, Rafi. Lesson 140. It's lesson 140 just came to my mind that salvation is the only cure, and that is the undoing of the ego thought system. Salvation is the only cure. It's not in the world. I love what everybody's sharing. And just to add to that simply, we speak of ideal teaching in a world in which the perfect teacher could not long remain. The perfect psychotherapist is but a glimmer of a thought not yet conceived. And for me, it's the Holy Spirit is my therapist, period. End of conversation. Thank you.
And thank you, Karen. Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. The Holy Spirit is my therapist. Regis, please go ahead.
Thank you. I hope you all can hear me okay.
Yeah, we hear you perfect.
All right, perfect. Rafi, thank you. Just piggybacking on Rafi's last comment about the dream is perfect. One of the things began to realize recently is, we like Rafi said, we're trying to correct the dream or straighten it out or whatever, but the prayer that was given to, I think, Bill, I am here only to be truly helpful. But stop, wait a minute. I know everybody thinking, yeah, I know. No, you don't. I am here. It's really saying I exist only to be truly helpful. We take that prayer and we think, oh, I got to get my mind right. I got to get my thoughts right. I got to get my attitude right. No, I exist. Is nothing for me to do. My mere existence, because I am love. And that's all I can be or do.
Bingo. That was the best. The best. I love it.
So I think we gotta, cause we get into this still work. Well, I gotta work on my mind. I gotta work on my attitude. I gotta work on, you know, seeing like the Course in Miracles say I'm supposed to see. I exist only to be truly helpful. That's why I don't have to worry about what to say or do. I can't mess it up. I can't go wrong. I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do because my mere existence, I am an extension of love. God so loved the world that he expanded himself over and over again into these glorious vessels of light, you and me. So when we really understand I am here, I am where? I am where? I exist only to be truly helpful. My existence is to help my brother. That's why every expression is an expression of love or request for love, period. And I think that's what Rafi said so eloquently. Is like, I don't have to try to fix a dream. I don't have to try to correct anything. Do nothing. Thanks.
I like that. Famous last words, do nothing. I love it. Oh my gosh. Uh, what beautiful sharing. Yeah. Yeah. Karen says in the chat, undo. Jack Roddy, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, here's a question for you. When I think of Jesus when he was on earth, I think of he was so perfect in his being healed from the ego thought system that his ability to perform miracles was so quick and so like the holy instant, the leper, when he would heal the sick, it seemed like his completeness made him more effective in healing. Now, what I want to do is I want to present that as a premise, and then I want to go back into this paragraph for a second and ask you to help me to understand it. Now, I understand that the ideal teaching and the perfect teacher will not long remain, is what it says here. So we speak of ideal teaching and the perfect teacher could not long remain. So because of my perception of Jesus as the perfect healer, I want to hear some input that will help me to understand that difference, because this is all about, there's no way you can be the perfect teacher or the perfect psychotherapist. There is no such thing. It's just a concept that is a thought not yet conceived, a glimmer of a thought, right? The perfect psychotherapist. So when we look at Jesus's life and how great a healer he was, how does this fit in and what am I missing?
Those are great questions, Jack. Anybody have any thoughts they would like to share to address that? Because yeah, I think kind of in the same way. I look at Jesus, he didn't really do anything as how I understand it, because of the way he perceived the world. He was not a um, it's hard to explain. I think he was not like a flesh and blood body, although he presented himself as a flesh and blood body. And he says that he actually was literally projecting that body in the world to be a communication device with people. And so when he walked through the world, he really was just um, as we all are, just a vibration of light. But he knew it. And he also knew that everyone else around him was as well. And so when people would come to him with the expectation of hope of healing, it wasn't that Jesus actually was healing them at all. It was that Jesus was seeing them as they truly were, which was completely whole and healed. And because they shared his vision, they could see themselves as that as well. It was, you know, it's not because there was a real person there with a real body that was really sick. It was that there was an idea there, that a person was projecting that they were a body that was sick, and their mind was changed in that connection with the Christ mind, and healing occurred. Now, if they had become completely healed, healed mind and healed body, then they would have not only risen up, but gone to teaching as well as Jesus did. So, uh, there was they were healed to a certain amount, but because Jesus knew that this was all a fabrication, he could fabricate. He could make wine. He could make fish out of, he could manifest things, not because he was manifesting anything real. He was just putting images and putting it out into the dream, because the figures in the dream were hungry. The figures in the dream wanted wine, whatever. So he was able to give them what they were wanting, even though it was a dream as well. I don't even, if that makes any sense. I don't know, but Sharon has her hand up.
Okay, I just want to say that, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that we're missing the point because the devil's in the details. The details is the world. Whatever Jesus did in the world doesn't mean anything because he's never done it to people. He was dreaming too. He didn't come and save. He's a dreamer like all of us. He's just the elder brother. But to go and say that look what he achieved as a healer is forgetting sameness, is forgetting the fact that we're loved. It's forgetting what Regis said, is that we exist. We don't have to do anything, but quickly our minds went right into the doing of what Jesus did and how he was so great. And that's because of the attraction to separateness. We really are perfect now. We're perfect love. Now, do we always behave that way? No, but that's not us anyway. When that ego talks, it's just talking. So I don't know. I think that leave it to all of us to have a beautiful, like Regis went and said, we all exist and that's perfect. It's all love. And then we come up with other things that we want. But really, do you see I'm just trying to say that let's keep it simple because the world is so complicated and the details that we are attracted to are the very thing that's pulling us back out there rather than inward. That's all.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, I think that's great. I appreciate that you pointed that out to us. I think one thing that you did say, I don't think Jesus thought he was a figure in the dream. I do think that Jesus was awake from the dream, and that's how he was able to manipulate the dream or manipulate or do things, because he recognized that we were not. The rest of the people
But we're
around
still,
were
but
not.
I'm not saying you're right or wrong. What I'm saying is if he was awake, and obviously everybody thinks he was the most awake, it doesn't matter because the awakened mind is here. The enlightened mind is here. The whole message of A Course in Miracles is that nothing ever happened. So every story is just another story on top of another story. And, to put Jesus on that pedestal, which I see a lot in Course students. Now, for me, I've had a relationship after the Course with Jesus, but this is not Jesus of the New Testament. That's just the truth. It's a story that we're all the son of gods, and he is our elder brother leading us home, just like Moses. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, thank you,
Just like
Sharon.
you, Lynn. I mean, you're doing it too. You're what you're doing right now is the work that you have been designed to do, because everybody's playing their part. And it's not a mistake that you're heading this group, because this is pretty much what your assignment was. We all are on assignment here.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Absolutely. Who else had their hand up? Somebody else I thought had. Anybody else have anything they'd like?
McKaylee has her hand.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, Mickey.
Hi, Lynn, Sharon, Karen, everybody, Rafi. I just wanted to say that, Lynn, what you said on your answer about Jesus projecting himself in into the dream. That's it, the way that you described it was really nice, and that's how I heard Jeffrey Seibert, who's teaching, from Ken's classes, from his videotapes. He pretty much said the same thing that you said. So I just wanted to say that tell you that. So that's all. Thanks.
That would be where I heard that from. I don't know. But yeah, I love Jeff. He is Jeffrey, he is a great teacher. You're right. Rico, please go ahead.
I just have a question. I want to ask Jack, did any of those responses get anywhere in the ballpark of your original inquiry?
Yes, very much so, Rafi. Especially what was it Sharon that just spoke? Yes, it helped me understand much more clear what's going on. Of course, the big thing is we need do nothing, and we're all in the dream. But it did help answer my question. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rico. Thank you, guys. All right, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share here. Oh, put my camera back on.
You are all the sweetest people. I mean, I just love listening to everybody. It's beautiful. Just beautiful. I love what Rico just did, how he just reached out. Because the truth is, we all love each other, and that's where it shows up here. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. I love you all.
Thank you. Good night.
See y'all in the morning.
Good night.
Night, all. Check that spam filter. All right. Bye-bye.